For this layout, you'll need several things, but you'll need a sheet of cardstock that's thicker than your normal cardstock. And with that, you'll also need a punch that, I've chosen the snowflake, but a punch that has some good negative images in it, because we're going to create a stencil out of that. Then you will need some papers. Now, the background should be, the main colour should be probably white or a very light colour. You'll see why soon. Some pattern paper, and I'm using the Winter Days paper pack from last year's Black Friday promotion. So using that, and 2 sheets of cardstock. So I've chosen brown and navy to go with the Winter Days. The other things you'll need is some embellishments. I've got a laser cut and a sticker. Also, tools wise, I've chosen both mountain border punches and the icicle BMC. And the main component is you're going to need an acetate sheet, and I'm using a beauty blender, some scissors, you'll need some ABCs if you want to put a title, and a multi-purpose tool, and you'll also need some journal pens or dot pens to create what we need to create. Now let's move on to the next part. For this layout, I've decided to try something a little bit new, a little bit different, by using one of our punches with a great negative image in it. Decided to try to create a stencil that you can ink using your pens and dot pens. So I've already gone ahead and created the actual stencil, and I punched it out of a piece of thicker cardstock that came from one of our cardstock buffets. I think it's quite a thick one. So I cut my piece of cardstock 3 2/16 wide, and then I've punched it along, turned it around, and then punch back the other side. So that'll create the stencil. Now what we plan to do, and I think the snowflake punch works really well for this, is take up a sheet of white cardstock, and then using repositionable tape runner, we're going to adhere that close to the top. So it gives you a little bit of a border either side. Now I'll take the rest of the leftover cardstock to create a border along the bottom, and with that, then using the ink pens, we are going to stencil it. Now I'm using Winter Days paper pack to finish it off. So, and the colours in that seem to be chocolate and navy blue. So I think I'll do the top part with the chocolate, and then the bottom part with the navy blue. So then you'll get a contrast of both, and the middle section will be white through the centre, in which you can put a border strip or put a title or whatever you'd like. So once I've adhered it all down and got it ready to go, then we will move on to the next step. Now I have adhered it down with repositionable tape runner. You wouldn't want to use permanent, because you want to be able to remove it once you've done your inking. Now, some of you may have seen me do this before. Noreen certainly showed me how to do it. And what you need to do is preferably a dot pen, but my second pen is not going to be a dot pen because I haven't got a navy blue dot pen. So I'll use the thick end of one of our pens. our navy blue pens. But you need to take like a plastic sheet, or you could use you know, some laminating sheet that you put through a laminator, just so that anything that's plastic for it to rub off. Now what we need to do is just draw a whole lot of ink on there, just so we have it available to transfer. Now you just got to be a little bit careful you don't get it too wet with your spray. I have gone and bought a couple of these beauty blenders that seem to work really, really well, rather than the smaller daubers, which are too small. So it's like an oversized dauber, really. You just got to be careful not to get them too wet. So if you spray it onto the beauty blender, you will just get enough moisture to and rub it off with your hand, so it's not too wet. Just enough to give you a bit of ink, and then it's going to be over my mat, so I'll have to clean that off afterwards. And then we just want to keep dabbing it on. Now you're going to run out of ink and you're going to have to reload it, which is fine. So just keep that pen handy. So once again, you can load it up with a bit more ink and load your beauty blender and add it again. And keep doing this till you've got right to the end. And then once we get to the end, we're going to do the bottom part in the navy. So I think you get the idea of how that works. Just make sure you don't get it too moist. But I will go and finish the brown and then do the navy, and we'll come back and then show you what happens next. Now I've washed my beauty blender out and dried it off, so it's clean. So it's still got a little bit of moisture in it. So now when I use the navy blue, I think I'll be, there's probably enough moisture in that not to need to spray it again. So just be mindful of that. So make sure, if you're not using a dot pen, make sure you still use the thick end of your journal pen. So let me have a look. Hopefully this is a dark enough navy blue. I don't think I have anything darker than this. But we'll see how we go. But it'll still be a blue and brown, which are the colours of the Winter Days collection, so you'll still get that blue and brown effect. And just keep going till you're at the end. Now once you've finished doing that, you probably need to leave it sitting in the sun somewhere for an hour or so, just to make sure the ink totally dries before you lift your stencil off. And then once you lift your stencil off and it's all dry, you'll need to rub away the repositionable tape. And then you can go on to finishing the next part, which I'll show you once we're all dry. Now we're finished stamping out all of our inks into our snowflake stencil. I've gone through and I've used the fat end or the dot pen end to give an extra bit into those extra little dot pieces. You can leave them just as stamped or add more if you'd like. So let's pull it away and see what we're finished with. Oh golly, that is so gorgeous. So now that you could reuse that on another page, I think it looks fantastic on its own, or you could just continue to use it as a stencil because that dried out quite nicely. And it's such a thick cardstock. Now rub away any of your excess repositionable tape. Sorry about rattling the table. And we'll get on with finishing this. So I have already chosen everything I'd like to use, and I am going to add a sheet of paper from the winter days, and I've cut it. It's 12 inches wide by 8 3/4 this way, so it just fits in nicely just there. So let's adhere that. I could have used that side, but I think this, because there's going to be enough going on, I think this is going to be enough. So let's add that. I'll use reposition also, make sure we get it into place properly. Now you can see with this inking technique, you could use it on a whole variety of different things, and you're not just now relying on a plastic stencil to create your image. You can now use one of your border makers or border punches to create something very effective. I have gone ahead and picked out all the elements for this, and the photos I'm using, now I think I will have to get them reprinted unfortunately, are of Mount Taranaki in New Zealand, where my husband's from. I was going to get them printed this week, but with the current conditions being up here, life has been a little difficult. So they will roughly go about there. And then using both mountain punches, I've punched out one in a navy, one in a brown, and overlapped them slightly apart. You can see that that end is slightly shorter, but it gives quite an effect of the mountains that will go to the bottom there. Then I think I'm going to add that sticker along the bottom. I have also punched out extra snowflakes out of our snowflake punch and taken the negative and popped them onto a foam square. And I thought, I could add those to the layout just like this. So it adds a little bit more to that top border. And then adding an extra sticker that I've found that I've popped up on foam squares. We'll go here. And I've created this terrific title. So I use the sans serif adhesive ABCs and the icicle punch, and that's what I needed the icicle border maker cartridge for. So and also using the wavy trimmer, I've created a 1 inch wide trim, and I think most of you know how to do that. So, but you could just have it straight if you wanted to. And then I've used what's it called? The newest Titletopia that was a bonus. So the Arcs and Wave Titletopia, to stick my ABCs down to get that nice organic wave. And then with the back, when I've adhered the icicle strip, just like when most sewers will relate to this. So because you're wanting it to move in an organic way, you just need to put little snips in it, and then it won't go straight. You'll be able to move it in the way you need to move it. And then using repositionable tape, have stuck it down, layered it like that, so you get that lovely effect. And then with foam squares, which will go right about here. So this is roughly how it's all going to end up looking, which I think will look fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and stick the rest of that down, and then I'll come back and show you the finished product. So now I have finished, and hopefully you can see how by using the border punches or border maker cartridges, you can create your own stencils to create a totally unique page. Thank you.